Hey guys, my name is Aaron White. Today in this video, we're going to be covering subject to transactions from the seller's perspective. If you're a seller, you're looking to sell your house and someone said, hey, let me buy it subject to, this is going to walk you through what is a subject to, give you an example of subject to, and talk about why would somebody do a subject to transaction as a seller, right? So let's dive into it. If you remember when you started, you bought a house, right? That house is there, and you used a lender for that transaction. They got money from a bank to help you fund that house, right? So now you as a seller in a traditional transaction, normally you would have another buyer come along, say, hey, I want to buy that house. It's a nice house. I could see our family living there. And they would go to another bank. And they're going to pay this bank points. They're going to pay this bank interest. Especially now, they're going to pay a higher interest rate probably than when you got your house. And so what happens here is the banks will use their money to really just pay this guy's money off, the loan that's paid there. And who makes money in that transaction? It's the banks, right? At the end of the day, there's a lot of fees and points and everything that go along in that transaction. So the idea in a subject to transaction is that this essentially goes away, right? The buyer comes along, buyer says, hey, maybe it's an investor, I want to buy that house. It could be a good rental property for me. And by the way, I see that you have a really good interest rate because you bought this house, I don't know, 2020, sometime when interest rates were low. So it doesn't make sense if I'm getting an 8 or 9% interest rate for me to buy it. But if I can have the interest rate you have, it does make sense. And so in this case, this seller will sell the house. In other words, they no longer have the right to own that house. And this buyer basically takes it over, and there's still a lien on that property for that mortgage. So they're accepting the house with a lien on the property, which means that, hey, whatever bank this is, let's just say it's Wells Fargo, okay? Wells Fargo still has a loan on that house. And that's okay, I'm gonna accept it. I'm gonna start making payments for this initial seller here. And although the name of that loan is still in their name, right? They no longer own that property, right? So why would somebody do this? I'm sure you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Is this even legal? Yes, it is legal. In fact, Texas, you can do this. There's promulgated forms that you can structure these deals with in Texas. So yes, 100% it's legal. And the way that this is structured, or why somebody might do this, you see this quite regularly. So now I'm gonna give you more of a real life example, right? Let's take a look at some numbers. Why in the world would somebody do a subject to transaction? Okay, so real life example, somebody bought a house for $320K, all right? They bought this house somewhere around 2021, if I recall correctly, okay? And the market had appreciated. That's a good thing. Not a bad thing, it didn't go down, it went up to $325. Let's see here. $325, okay? So it went up, and that says is in 2021, 2023, okay? Market went up. So a lot of people think this is very linear. Okay, the seller would make $5,000. Well, no, they wouldn't make $5,000. They would actually lose a lot of money out of pocket. Why is that, right? Well, anytime you sell on the MLS, at least with a real estate agent will often have between 5 to 6% in their costs, and they're splitting that with another agent. Brokers, it's not all their money. I know, agents, blah blah blah, right? But you also are going to have several other things. There's often in Texas, at least, about 1.5% on the title insurance. And then you have not only that, but often you might get 1 to maybe 2% in concessions that the buyer is asking because the interest rate's high and I want my interest rate lowered. So this will make sense for me to do that if you can give me this deal, Mr. Seller, right? So you might be paying next to 8 to 10% of that 325K. That means that you'd walk away with less than 300K in your pocket on there. Now, in this case, when the buyer bought this house, they had used a FHA loan because it was one of their first houses that they bought. So that means they put 3% down. They still owed about 310K when we met with them. In fact, they were a little bit behind on their payment because, well, they lost a job and they actually had to move. They were upside down, they were stuck, right? I've actually been in this position myself back in 2011 and it sucked. And I had no idea that any of that stuff even existed back then. Wish someone had told me about it. I ended up getting a renter, trashed the place. Later, I ended up spending a ton of money fixing it up. Long story, right? But anyways, the idea here is the buyer comes along, they saw that house, they liked the house, right? They couldn't offer the market price and they couldn't offer above market price. Maybe it was listed, I think it was listed around 340 something. They were gonna pay some money out of pocket to get rid of it, but they just didn't have enough money to sell the house and get rid of the house, right? So we couldn't offer the 340, right? That's no bueno for anyone. It's too much money. The market's saying it's worth 325. All the comps say it's 325. It's gonna appraise at 325. Can't offer what they're asking for. So what we do is, again, going back to the example of subject 2, right? They owe 310. We bring them an offer that gets their agent their 3% commission, right? And we pay that agent, let's just say close to 9K. I don't remember the exact number it was, right? That's cash that we brought to the table. And we brought an extra 5K out of pocket here and end up buying a house close to about that, 325 number, which is market value, today's market value for it. As an investor, well, that doesn't make sense. How are you making money as an investor? Well, we're making money on the investor side because that loan that they have here, this initial loan with this 310K balance had a 2.5% interest rate. And when rents were covered, we were making about $400 in rent per month. So it makes sense. We were buying it, the loan stays in place, it stays in their name, they don't go into foreclosure, they don't face Chapter 11, right? It solves a problem for the seller. It makes an asset that's attractive for an investor like us to purchase and take over that house as well. And it ends up being a win-win scenario. Instead of the banks making all the money in the scenario, having a whole bunch of stress, days on market, etc., it's a super simple, clean process to buy a house subject to. So hopefully that answers some questions. If you have further questions, how to do it, all that kind of stuff, we're making lots of videos in this space right now, but feel free to stay close or reach out to us on our website. We'll be happy to help you answer any questions that you might have.